I met you here at the Friendship Club in Santa Fe, and you said something, I don't know if ominous is the word I want. You go, oh, I've got stories. And so I'm going to circle back around and go, what did you mean by that?
Oh, I have a long history of life, I guess. A pretty busy, chaotic life. I'm not sure which stories are the best type. At 13, my brother had been diagnosed with AIDS. And so I think when I think back, that was really the trigger that started to poor choices as a 13-year-old. He was 18, or no, he was 11 years older than me, so he was 22.
Okay.
And so I think that's where all the poor choice decision-making started. Really about grief, started with, oh, I found some cigarettes, I'll smoke some cigarettes. And then
nobody has ever mentioned that, and statistically, that's actually the gateway drug.
I think so.
Isn't that something?
I've also explored the idea of if sugar is the gateway drug when we start giving it to babies when they are drinking formula. I mean, because I used to just eat sugar, like out of the bag. Just sit there with a spoon and just eat sugar. But then I started getting, I actually used to snort Kool-Aid and I don't know where that idea came from. I think I'll snort Kool-Aid.
That's very honest of you. I don't know what I was expecting. I didn't expect that. Wow.
So yeah, then it was cigarettes, and then it was marijuana, and then hallucinogens, LSD, mushrooms, then probably onto cocaine, and then methamphetamines, and then...
Where'd you grow up?
Albuquerque.
Okay. Latchkey kid?
Yes,
yeah,
definitely.
Me too.
Yeah, so my mom wasn't around much. She was a single mom with 3 kids, and we just kind of did our own thing.
Yeah.
And not a lot of supervision, not a lot of guidance, just figure it out. And I think she thought, because she had a strict upbringing, that having figure it out gave the freedom to learn from your choices and those kinds of things. But it turns out if you leave kids with no supervision, they can choose some not great choices.
Can definitely relate.
Yeah.
And then, but the old thing of what it used to be like, what happened, and what it's like now. What would you say about that?
So what it used to be like was crazy. It's like a whole separate life.
Yeah.
And then they always say it's the liver, the lover, the law. For me, it was the law.
What's that? I never heard that.
You've never heard the lover, the law. So in AA, they tend to say one of 3 things will bring you in. It's either the liver, the lover, the law.
Oh, that's going in the act. I never heard that one. Okay.
So I got in trouble with the law and had to do probation. I couldn't stay sober. Then I got sentenced to a detox program. And so in that detox program, I found sobriety and AA and NA. Through that, I started with NA, thinking that was the place for me. And I tried, they have CMA, Crystal Meth Anonymous. I didn't know that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, They have CA for Cocaine Anonymous.
Yeah. We just did an episode about Cocaine Anonymous.
Yeah. So I tried all those, and I found myself getting triggered a lot because although they tell you not to talk about war stories, people do. Sure. And I also ran into people that were having to attend meetings for their probation, but were not actually focused on their sobriety.
You bet.
And so I ran into a lot of people that I would use with, and they were still using and things like that. So I found my way to AA in Albuquerque, and I found the way I describe it is I feel like AA is the original anonymous program and therefore the purest. So, when thinking about drugs and alcohol, I feel like the others are somewhat diluted and, I want the purest form. So
yeah, I didn't like my liquor watered down either. Exactly. That's funny. Now, what I heard a long time ago, I'm 31 years in on this deal, was that AA is for drunks who also can't use drugs, and NA is for druggies who also can't drink. So that makes sense to me. Is we're really talking about recovery. Now that you're sober, what do we do? How do we what do we do with our lives?
Yeah. So then I of course had to go for the 13th step, and
You didn't invent anything there, all
right. And then ended up within my first year of sobriety pregnant, and had a child, and then I started to deliver newspapers, and then that made to where I would get off work at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I had this little baby with me, and then I would go to meetings at the 6:30 Sunrise Sobriety. That was my home group for a long time. And I found it was a really great way to start the day. Like, you start the day with this positive message. And the people who I felt like were starting their day at 6:30 in the morning were people that were devoted to their sobriety. There was people that would start driving over at 5 o'clock in the morning. And it was like, so.
Yeah, they weren't kidding around.
Right. And I did that every day for years. And I feel like that contributed the most to my success. And it just worked out that way. So then I started school.
Newly sober baby, delivering newspapers, meetings before dawn.
Yeah.
What was the next phase?
Well, then I was a single mom. And then I started school. I wanted to go to school. And because of my criminal history, it was really difficult. I had first wanted to be a teacher, but I was on probation, and they don't let you do student teaching on probation, especially for drugs. So then I had to figure out something else. I talked to the counselor. I'm like, what can I do? They're like, there's really not many occupations that aren't going to have an issue with your background except for social work. So
I see.
I found my way into social work, and it was
interesting.
A perfect fit because it's, to me, because of my rough childhood, my upbringing, all those things, it really just seems like common sense. It's learning about all the things that I've experienced and figuring out why and how, and writing a lot of papers about it.
Yeah, we've had another guest on the show who runs a homeless shelter, and as she got into service work, she said, "Yeah, but I don't want to work with druggies." They were like, "Yeah, good luck with all that.
Right.
Welcome to your new life."
Exactly.
And I also had a judge in a large Southern California city, a nice fella, and I asked him, "What percentage would you estimate of cases that come across your desk are drug and alcohol related?" And he thought for a minute. He said, "One way or another, 100%.
Yeah.
So that's, while absolutely preserving your anonymity, your day is filled with clients who are, what folks are you dealing with day to day?
Well, it always takes me back to if you had met me 20 years ago, I probably would have been hanging out with them. And so, but there's, the world has changed a bit because it shifted drugs. Now it's not so much crystal meth. Now it's more fentanyl.
Fentanyl, yeah. You're saying the same thing I'm hearing from, that's after my time, obviously, but it's here running a community center in Santa Fe. It's everywhere. It's across the street. It's on the porch. It's up and down the street. It's at the homeless shelter a half a mile down the block. The telltale signs I've learned now are these blankets and parkas and sleeping rolls that guys use to, I say guys,
people
use to pup tent under and smoke this stuff. These homemade blue pills.
Yeah, and the foils and
That's right.
And the black soot all over the hands.
So your clientele has moved into that deal. Are they mostly in trouble with the law by the time they come to you, or what's up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's usually the case. But
so, how do you fit into the picture? Are you helping them get housing and jobs and stuff, or what's?
We try. Santa Fe is not a place that really has housing available to anybody.
True.
There's a few shelters, and that's about all there is. There's such limited housing in Santa Fe.
Okay. So, what else do you try to help them with?
We try to help with, just having someone to talk to is one big piece. Helping people purchase things that they need, like clothes or fuel for their car, or connecting to services. So they will get other, counseling, or connecting to getting into school, or, any types of things that they might be interested. It's really client directed. So
the basics of life and maybe education, and what else are you trying
if that's what they want. But the hard thing is that if people are still using, they generally aren't really motivated to make big changes in that direction.
So are they living at homeless shelters? Is that?
A lot of times, some people maintain on the streets. Some people stay in shelters. Some people stay with friends or family. Some people bounce around and couch surf. Some people, there's just a variety of types of people.
Is it seasonal? We're moving into, it was 70 degrees last week, and it's 20 degrees this week here in the mountains.
Yeah, fentanyl doesn't care. Okay. I mean, they, when the focus is the drug, it's not much shifts the focus into safety or health or things like that. A
concept I'd not heard until I started running a community center a few years ago was this thing of harm reduction. Is that what's
that's a big,
about that.
That's a big piece of our program. But harm reduction is based on, people are going to use. So how can we help them to do that in the safest way possible? So there's a few examples of what harm reduction can be. And to help people relate to that, harm reduction can be wearing a seatbelt is harm reduction. Having a smoke detector in your house is harm reduction. There are things that could go wrong, and the best way to help protect people in those settings. So for people who are using fentanyl, it would be giving them clean foil, giving them clean straws so that they're not sharing straws or tutors to suck the smoke, because as they share, especially in the days of COVID, you're exposing people to germs. And oftentimes people who are daily drug users are going to be, they might have sores on their mouth, or, their health is not in the best way. So then you run the risk of spreading herpes between each other if you're sharing, utensils, tutors, things to smoke. So, it's really shifted. Harm reduction used to be focused on needle exchange, because when meth was the main thing, IV drug use was the big thing. Now the amount of syringe exchange has gone way down, and it's focused on foils, tutors, and then just food. Food and nutrition are also considered harm reduction, offering people something that they can carry around with them, like a bag of crackers or granola bars or things like that. And then Narcan is a big one. So the Narcan.
Yeah, we did a whole episode on that. Yeah. You carry it with you in your car? No?
Yeah, I have it in every car I drive, and I drive like 6 different cars. And not only, and I think one of the things that people don't think about with opioids and Narcan too is that Narcan can also be used. So like my 75-year-old father was addicted to opioids because he had a back surgery, and they never had Narcan in their house. But if he had overdosed, you would have hoped that they would have. So it's not only for people who are smoking fentanyl on the streets.
Right. It
can also be for your grandparents or your parents or your, I was surprised. My son was 10 years old. He had a procedure at the hospital, and they prescribed him an opioid. I filled it because I didn't know if we would need it, but I didn't, I wasn't going to give it to him unless he was in excruciating pain. Right. And he wasn't. And he did fine with ibuprofen and Tylenol, but I was shocked that they prescribed my 10-year-old son
10-year-old
an opioid. And
I had no idea.
So when I filled it, I said, can I get the Narcan too to go with it? Because if I'm going to have it, I need to have both. And luckily that's become a thing at the pharmacy. So if you fill an opioid, they are going to offer you Narcan to go with it.
Right?
Yeah. So anybody can go to a pharmacy and ask for Narcan, I believe.
Yeah.
And certainly if you are filling an opioid prescription, they will provide it.
We've got a crate of it here under our cash register. So let me circle back. You covered a lot of ground. Your 75-year-old dad became addicted because of back surgery.
Yes.
So how does that work? You're told to take a couple of these a day, and you start taking 5 a day, and
well,
you're
the
off to the
pain
races?
is so strong. So then he eventually got a thing where he had a nerve stimulator that was surgically implanted in his back. So that helped with the pain, but he was still addicted to the opioids. So he took it upon himself after, realizing that he was addicted. And he was an AA guy too. Took it upon himself to quit on his own. And so he tapered down and then he quit cold turkey. And he said it was the hardest thing he ever did in his entire life. And that was OxyContin. I mean,
yeah, I'm a multiple kidney stone survivor, so I got some game. I've been in pain,
right.
And I've been prescribed opioids, and I'm a all in sober guy. But yeah, it was for the times when I was on my knees, right. and there was your hair's on fire. I can tell you this that I had an absolutely crushing attack of kidney stones, and I went into an emergency room. Seldom had to go that route, but my time had come, and the nurse who was hooking me up to an IV, and I mean, I was a 10. My pain was a 10, as far as I know, in my life's experience.
Yeah.
And the lady nurse who was attending me said, "Yeah, I've had kidney stones too, and that's not as common for women to get kidney stones as it is for men." And I said, "Oh, interesting." And I said, "Have you had kids?" She goes, "Yeah, I'm a mom." And I said, "All right, well, they tell me as a guy, as a man, that kidney stones hurt worse than childbirth. Which is worse?" She goes, "Oh, childbirth in a walk, no comparison." I'm like, oh, there goes that guy-based theory. And I have not talked about this much. She was, now mind you, fact is I was vomiting in pain. Only time in my life that pain has made me throw up. And she hooked me up to an IV. And she said to me, I'm 25 years sober. She said, "We're going to put some morphine in here, and it's going to stop that pain." I assure you, I was in no bargaining position. Because I have before. Right. I've gone to dentists and go, no, yeah. We were beyond little toothache.
Yes, right.
I had a knife in my guts.
Yes.
And so she said, and 3, 2, 1, and pushed the button, and the pain slipped away like it had never been there. And I was as sober from the neck up.
Right.
As I am right now with you.
That's what my husband always says. He says that if you're in real pain and you take an opioid, it will get rid of the pain. But if you're not in pain and you take the opioid, it's a completely different experience.
Okay. Had not heard it put that way. I can just tell you my personal experience is it withdrew the hot knife from my guts.
Right.
And I felt right. But not... And I'm a guy who has been intoxicated in my life. This was not that.
Because it blocks the pain receptors in your brain. But if you're not in pain, it's blocking the pain receptors in your brain, which also then leads you to a euphoric state.
Well, it gave me an empathy for, you hear stories usually of celebrities who got injured one way or another, got on pain pills, and now, their life is a wreck because they're addicted to pain pills. And I just said, well, I'm not a pill guy, whatever. I'm not trying to judge that. I'm just saying at that moment I went, well... And kidney stones are funny. They hurt on Wednesday and they don't hurt on Thursday, and they hurt on Friday and they don't hurt on Sunday. I finally got them blasted out with lithotripsy. It's been a while since I've used that word, but the sound waves that blast your kidney stones away, like a gun. It's just gone.
Awesome.
But but it made me go, well, if I woke up every morning and my choice was to take an opioid or have that level of pain, I'm pretty sure I would end up in big trouble.
Absolutely.
I feel confident that I would.
And that was what happened with my father. He was in pain, and then he got that nerve stimulator, and then it took away the pain, and then he realized he couldn't stop taking the opioids.
Right, because the monster's awake, and he's AA, so he's prone to addiction anyhow, as far as I'm making assumptions about a guy I've never met, but sounds like we're cut from the same cloth. That's the thing about relapse is I feel like I've got this pilot light down in my belly, and that if I were to pour some Jack Daniels or anything else on it, now the monster's awake, and now what do you do? Like your dad with the pain electrical treatment, but the addiction remains. It's
Right.
It's no joke for folks like us.
and that's the thing. I mean, as I've been remarried, I've had more children. And I, too, had when having one of my children, I was hemorrhaging, and they had to do terrible things after my baby was born that were so painful, the worst pain in the world. And they gave me fentanyl and they actually almost OD'd me on fentanyl while I was in the hospital. But there was nothing euphoric or pleasant about any of it because
right. and you were on actual fentanyl that was made by Pfizer or something, not stuff cooked up in a bathtub by some idiot.
Right. And who knows what else is added to it. And that's the thing that they're saying right now is there's a batch going around that is killing a lot of people in Santa Fe. Yes.
Oh, damn it. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of people have overdosed in the last few weeks. And they're talking about if there's like rat poison in it or something. And then there's the whole xylazine thing where that's giving people sores, even from smoking fentanyl, that they will get sores over.
That name is my degree is in fine arts. I'm not much in the in the medicine, but xylazine is its intended use is what? Horse tranquilizer or something like that?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a horse tranquilizer. And for some reason, when people smoke it, it causes skin infections that are resistant to antibiotics. And if go untreated, it can really spread and cause people to need to have, what is it when you cut?
Skin grafts?
No, like cut off a leg.
Amputation. Holy crap.
Yeah. So it can lead to amputations and extreme infections that could ultimately lead to death if that goes untreated because, you can get septic from infections.
Is this street fentanyl that people are smoking right down the block right now? Is it expensive? Are they staying high cheap every day? I don't know about that part.
I think they're fairly cheap. I don't really know about the cost. I've heard of people smoking 50 to 70 pills a day.
What?
So, yeah. So the way it's been described to me is that fentanyl is like the crack of opioids. So it's a very extreme high that goes way up and it happens very quickly and then they want more right away. So I know that crack is that way in that people will use it very quickly and then want more immediately.
I got sober in Los Angeles in the early 90s and the crack cocaine epidemic had mowed through especially the African-American community like a flamethrower. And so there were a lot of folks newly sober at the same time I was newly sober whose drug of choice had been crack cocaine, LA style in the late 80s, early 90s. And I think, as no experience there personally, but I think it was a way to get a $5 or $10 blast as often as you could instead of having to pony up $100 back when dollar bills were about yay big. It wasn't easy to come up with 100 a day. Believe me.
Yeah.
Not something I read in a magazine. And so, okay, you just enlightened me that people are buying this street stuff in small quantities for a small amount of money.
Yeah.
Probably.
So, I think, on the high end, some people might pay $10 a pill, maybe $20 if they're really getting ripped off. And then some people might get it as cheap as $1, I'm not sure. But I think it averages around $5 or something. I'm not 100% sure.
I want to thank you for doing good in the world with. We're not 20 years old anymore. I'm older than you, but you start to realize as you get along in life that there's nothing more valuable than the time you have and the energy you have to put into the world. And you and I are not to judge. We're not selling sailboats to rich people. We're trying really hard to
sell life.
Go face into some people having difficulties and do what we can to help. I'm not comparing what I do to what you do, but so thank you.
Well, once I found...
How's it going? How are you?
It's a lot. But once I found that, giving back is a big part of sobriety, in the 12 steps. And if I could get paid to do that, bonus.
Oh, we're all knocking down millions a month. So yay us.
But so it's nice to be able to help people and give back and it be part of the job.
Well, if you're a regular listener of this podcast, you might enjoy the 3 episodes that are labeled something like homeless shelter manager. That's in the title of all three of them. Because one thing I notice about my friend who does that and my new friend here today is in the face of some pretty daunting human realities all day, every day in your vocation, you got a very positive, sunny kind of personality on you. So there has to be something in that helping people.
Well, and gratitude. That's the thing that I've found, and I work really hard to focus on, is gratitude. And that's one of the things that people say when you sponsor someone, you get just as much from your sponsee as they get from the sponsor. And that's because when working with people who are in a tough spot, it's always a reminder of where you came from and not to forget how much of a challenge it was to get to where you are, to climb out of that hole, and then to fill myself with gratitude of appreciation of everything I have today. Because now I'm, married, have a bunch of kids, and have a good job. And, there's so many things to be grateful for. And they're not just the material things, but also the perspective on life. Yeah. Having the experience that I've had in life is the only something that is not totally rare, as many people go through, but to be able to use it to stay humble and try to just be grateful for.
I love being a sober drunk. I love having lived the experiences that I lived, and now 30 years on the other side of the street. It's awesome. We know things the other kids don't know, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the only life I have, so it's hard to know.
Right. What you don't know.
Had I been born with no propensity to addiction and a normal brain and stuff, I don't know what that would have felt like. But I do know what it's like to be helpless in the face of addiction, and that being the most important thing is to stay high. And now it never crosses my mind. Yeah.
And honestly, these days, for me, the slipperyest slope is alcohol, because it's legal and it's everywhere. Like, I went on a cruise, and I'm like, oh, I'm on a cruise. What do you do on a cruise? You're supposed to have a drink. And I'm like, but I always tell myself, what would I have to gain? What would I have to lose? And would it be worth it? So that's the way I talk myself out of those situations. But I'm like, oh, I'm on a cruise, and nobody would know. And,
a lot of relapse on airplanes. I know that.
Exactly. Yeah, airplanes.
It happens. Dentist offices, I've heard it all. Listen, we do 30 minutes episodes, and we're done here, but you've got so much good information in there, and the empathy and the goodwill is just shining off of you. So it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thanks for coming in and doing the show.
Thanks for having me.
You know what that music means. We're out of here.